series webinar. It's titled Why Are Drop Everything and Read Periods Very Important. My name is Atengosi Matyalana, and I'm the digital specialist at Nalibali, and I will be your host. Today, we are joined by Bongani Kodide, who's the Nalibali Northwest Provincial Coordinator. Bongani is a storyteller, he's a literacy development activist, he's a writer, he's a social entrepreneur, he's also a puppeteer. He has published 2 books, and he was overseeing the implementation of the Nalibali and Trevor Noah Foundation project in Soweto. He has overseen a lot of Drop Everything and Read projects, the implementation of a lot of drop and read projects in the Soweto area in Gauteng. Joining Bongani, we have Leslie. Leslie is a former English high school teacher and a university lecturer at the Nelson Mandela University in Gqeberha. So after leaving the university as a full-time lecturer, Leslie joined the GM Foundation in 2014 and helped develop and facilitate paired reading for enjoyment program called Masikhulisane, which is implemented in townships around Kariega and Gqeberha. So from 2016, she has continued with the Masikhulisane reading program at Heather Bank and the Eastern Cape Province Child and Youth Center. In addition, she's also worked for Shine Literacy and the VW Community Project. Currently, Leslie works as a literacy mentor and facilitator at Masikhulisane program. Just before we get started with the conversation around D.E.A.R and the benefits of the D.E.A.R, of the D.E.A.R periods, I'd like to mention that one of our third guests couldn't make it, Sibongiseni, because of internet connections, and we are going to continue without her. So yeah. So the Drop Everything and Read period, which is better known as the D.E.A.R period, it's a time that's regularly set aside in the classroom, scheduled for both learners and teachers to drop everything and read. So D.E.A.R periods accommodate a variety of learner interests and ability levels, since every student is allowed to select the book that they would like to read. So as we all know, according to the 2021 polls report, 81% of South African grade 4 learners cannot read for meaning. And it is very frustrating that we find ourselves in this position as a country. And interventions like the D.E.A.R period are very much welcome in terms of improving literacy in South Africa. So to get started, I would like to ask Bongani, as someone who's implemented the D.E.A.R period for Nalibali, I'd like to ask him why is the D.E.A.R period so important? Bongani.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Atinkosi. Hi, Les. I hope you are well. I think first point, it's critical for us to understand that for a long time in the schooling system, we haven't had an opportunity to do any reading for enjoyment. You know, there hasn't been any aspect or any program that promotes reading for enjoyment that is sanctioned by the department itself. So coming up with Drop Everything and Read, I think it has been a lifesaver. It's been such something that has been an opportunity in waiting. So when you define a D.E.A.R period, I think it's important for you to acknowledge that it is an opportunity to create or give children the opportunity to experience reading aloud and stories for fun, without them having to answer questions, without them having the pressure to be able to write something. No, for them just to experience words, for them to experience text in a fun and exciting way. I mean, it is for that reason that we say it's reading for pleasure. And reading for pleasure, it is us creating an opportunity for fun in literacy and reading amongst the children. So once you take that and take it to the classroom, you are literally breaking the formality that is in the classroom. You know, the whole stagnation that the children are sitting down, the whole idea that the teacher is standing in the front and the children are at the back. You know, everyone is just, it's a quiet environment, a strict environment where there are rules. So when you bring in reading for pleasure through this D.E.A.R period, you are literally breaking all that. You are literally creating that fun for that 20 to 25 minutes or whatever time that you've allocated it for. You are creating fun for children, something that children do not just experience at home or wherever, but they're experiencing stories, they're experiencing reading aloud in a fun and exciting way. So therefore, this is a great opportunity for us. And I think having this D.E.A.R period has been a lifesaver for many schools around the country.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bongani. Coming to you, Leslie, we at Nalibali, we believe strongly in collaborations between non-profit organizations, the government, schools, funders, and basically any community organization that is interested in literacy. Leslie, you are part of Masikulisane, an organization that is doing pet reading at Heather Bank Primary School in Kabeja. How can community organizations assist with the D.E.A.R period?
In 2014, 3 teachers in my area got together and we formed Masikulisane, and we basically went to an NGO, which was GM, and we said to them, we have this product and we would very much like to pilot it and implement it in township schools. And so that is exactly what we did. So I think there are NGOs out here that are very interested in assisting. As I've mentioned as well, I've also worked for the VW Foundation. So our program, okay, I'm actually the one who's implementing it at the moment, is based on reading for pleasure, reading for enjoyment. But we do it slightly differently. So I'm working in a school during school days, and I go into the classroom. We work with grade 3s and grade 2s primarily. So we're trying to get them before they go to grade 4, so that we can get the reading skills up to date and up to scratch. So what we do is we have lots and lots of fun. We always start with songs, we start with games, we make it a pleasurable experience. I've been using Nalibali resources for the past 11 years. So those are our primary sources. But there is a little reading corner in the classroom as well, where children can take out books. But in our program, what we do is we read the story with the children and then they read to each other. So we do paired reading and we do it in both languages. So we can use the resources that NGOs provide for us. I've also approached the university because I used to work for the university. And in fact, I've just started another contract with the education department. And they have funded me, helping me get supplies, get books, get staplers, whatever we need to make the Nalibali little books, pairs of scissors. So that has been great. But I also think that the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, everyone who cares about children, everyone who cares about reading. We all have a part to play. We can't just rely on outside organizations. We have to do the work. We have to be passionate. And we have to make things happen. Thank you. Sound is gone.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Coming to you, Bongani, as somebody who has implemented the D.E.A.R period in various schools in Bramfisherville, in Soweto, what advice would you give to a teacher or a school principal looking to get started with the D.E.A.R program? What are some of the steps they can take to get started with the D.E.A.R program at their school?
No, thank you, Ati. I think the important thing, it is for them to understand the first point and the starting point. I'm glad Leslie spoke about that. It is reading for enjoyment. You know, once the people begin to understand that you are all about reading for fun, reading for pleasure, that should be your starting point. So once you begin to then say you are reading for enjoyment, it means that you are going to bring stories and material to read, but also there's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of activities, songs, dance, games that you are going to play, you know. So what is fundamental is for the teachers and the principals and for everyone who's interested in initiating the program to understand as the starting point that when you pursue a reading for enjoyment activity, you need to understand that you are also creating fun. You are making reading to be fun. You are making reading to be exciting. So what is important is that they need to start firstly by allocating proper times. You know, you allocate the proper time so that by introducing it, you stick to that particular time. You can introduce it probably just before lunch. It can just take place just before lunch, 25 minutes. Allocate that particular time. Then you become consistent on it. Then you engage with the teachers and everyone else who's participating. Go to the Nalibali website, download the Nalibali supplement, or also go to your nearest library, get children's books. Then by so doing, you start reading the stories to children, and by engaging the children. And one thing that I want to encourage is the notion that by reading to children, start reading, do a lot of reading to children, so that when children get to be read more and more stories, to be told more and more stories, they too will begin to want to read back to you, you know. And there's always been that debate that is currently taking place about what many call unison reading. I also refer to it as choral reading, where you will find learners reading together in one class, you know. And there's been debate about that process. How does it help and so on? I think personally, I would say that it's always critical to do that part. It is not the kind of activity that I will encourage teachers to do. Instead, I will encourage them to be the ones who are telling more and more stories. And once in a while, ask the children that, is there anyone who would like to volunteer to read a story, you know? And when you have more children volunteering to read a story, and that way you are slowly helping children to gain confidence for them to be able to read. So the role of the teachers and the principal, it is to motivate the children to want to read. But firstly, we need to start at teachers, ask the teachers that they must be the ones who are driving it. They must be the ones who are doing all the reading, you know. Stick to that particular time. You can have it 3 times or 4 times a week, that 25 minutes or 20 minutes or 15 minutes, have the story read, you know, play games, sing a song together. And after that, get used to it and get used to it. And until you become so comfortable that you can see the response now, children have the eager to want to do it. So we need to put more emphasis on teachers, you know. And I think I want to say that I want to encourage teachers not to encourage for this choral reading, you know, choral reading where children just read. Sometimes there's no meaning. They just text them. It's just text. There will be no meaning, you know. So it's much better when teachers are asking children, is there anyone who would like to read? Is there anyone who would like to share their own story, you know? So that will eventually grow and it will develop to a much more progressive program indeed. Thank you, Ati.
All right, cool. Thank you, Bongani. According to the National Reading Barometer survey, which was done by Nalibali and shared by Nalibali and partners last year, 5% of adults who do not read with children said it was because they did not have materials to share with children in the mother tongue. So this lack of materials in the mother tongue does not only affect children at home, it also affects children at school because there's not enough material in the mother tongue. So a lot of schools struggle with reading materials, and there might not be enough teachers to host D.E.A.R periods. What is the best way to deal with this challenge, Leslie?
Would you want me to take this, or Leslie, I'm going to take this one?
You can take this one. I've got something to add as well when you're finished.
Oh, okay. First point, we need to, one of the things that I think Nalibali needs to emphasize a lot is we need to become a key role player in developing the relationships between parents, community members, and libraries, community-based libraries, because you'll find that when you go to the library, you'll find that there are children's books, there's so many books that are available. There might even be, well, the majority might be English books, but there are books that are available. But also, I think one of the other things is that we need to encourage parents to visit the Nalibali website, because that is also another platform where they can get mother tongue stories, and they can also be able to access many other resources that they can use. And something that is critical for parents is that we need to motivate parents. Parents need to stay on top of their game so that they can be the ones who are supporting their own children's literacy development. Because as much as the teachers are there, as much as organizations are there, we also need parents to be able to be role players, because as they are the parents, they spend most of their time with their children. Children get at home after school and they meet their parents. They spend the whole night with their parents. Tomorrow morning, they go to school, So the parents are part of the important people that can be able to encourage for mother tongue reading and create access to resources. I mean, to download the Nalibali supplement on the phone, it's not even a megabyte. It's very, very short. It's much easier to download. They can also go to the nearest library, get the library card at the local library, because that's where also children are going to have an exposure to the kinds of material that is needed. I think we need to do away with the excuse that there is no material and so on. Material is there. It's just for parents to access it. Thank you. You are muted, Ati.
Okay. You're back, Ati.
Can you hear me now? Thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you.
So since we've started talking about challenges like a lack of access to reading materials, what are some of the challenges that you have encountered in the field in terms of implementation of the D.E.A.R period, Leslie? And what are some of the lessons that you managed to pick up from those challenges?
Right. So Ati, as I said before, we have been using Nalibali resources since 2013, 2014. So I found that almost everybody has a cell phone these days. So I just tell all the teachers, you go to the Nalibali website, you can find stories, every language that you would want. What I also do is I go to the Nalibali Facebook page. I actually download stories. We've got a WhatsApp group with the teachers. And even today, I sent a teacher a story and I said, this is your story for the week. And so it's so easy. It's so easy. During COVID, what we did as well was we actually downloaded stories and printed them from Nalibali's website. And what I do is I have little ice cream containers like this, and we give each child an ice cream container, very easy for them to get hold of. I also ask all my friends, please keep your ice cream containers. And then inside, we have our little cutout and keep books. So we start building up a personal library for the children. So by the end of the year, our class has about 25 little books, each child. And then at the end of the year, they're allowed to take those books home. And the sort of what we've got from the children, the feedback that we get, is that they love having a personal library. And in fact, they take them with them on holiday. And some of my children have told me, these holidays, we took our box with us and we read them to all our cousins in the rural areas, wherever we were visiting. So it's a great excitement for the children to actually have a little book. So if you can print out, and you can print out an A4 size, and it makes a very small book. It's not in color. We print it in black and white, and the children color in the little book. But then it's a personal thing. So that has been our resource. There are also charity shops in our city, and I regularly visit the charity shops where I buy very inexpensive books. and we take them along to the classroom and I hand them out to the teachers. But as you say, it's often difficult to get them in the mother tongue. You know, we're working with children that come from the township. They're exposed to a lot of English, but the other languages we get from the Nali Bali website. So that has been a challenge that we've overcome, and I think it's working really, really well. In fact, my gardener, whenever he comes to work, he gets a little book to take home to his little girl. And he tells me now that she starts asking me before he's left home, "Are you going to bring me a book today?" So we've given her an ice cream container. She's got her little collection that she's building up. He's reading to her, so his English has improved. And he says he loves having it in 2 languages. So the fact that it's bilingual. So I can highly recommend that. I've also been using a student in the classroom with the grade 3s, and he works at Exclusive Books. And he says, parents come in there and they say, "We can't find mother tongue books." And he's now started telling them, "You go to Nali Bali," and he gives them the website. And he says, "You'll find everything that you want." So it hasn't been a challenge for us because we have this wonderful resource of stories at all different levels. And they are fantastic stories. And what I love about them is that there's a message to all the stories. So that's how we overcome the first challenge. The second challenge is I use a lot of volunteers. I spoke about a student that I have. Okay, he wants to be a teacher. So he's happy to come into the classroom and come and read with the children. I have friends who have retired and they're sitting at home and they say, "We love to read." So I bring them into the classroom and they read to the kids. And Dr. Seuss said, "You are never too old, too wacky, too wise than to sit down and read to a child." And that's our philosophy. So use volunteers. When I was working in Kariga, I even had mothers of some of the grade 3s who would come into the classroom to assist us. So put the word out there. You know, there are many people who would just love to come into a classroom and read with and to children. Thank you.
So much, Leslie. It's great to hear that you're using Nali Bali resources in your D.E.A.R period, and they're having an impact in your area and just the children around you. So Bongani, this one's for you. So when children read at school during the D.E.A.R period, or they read with members from the Nali Bali team or any organization, they usually do that at school, or sometimes they do it at home. But the people that they get to interact with on a daily basis are the caregivers, their parents. So what kind of response have you received from parents who are whose children are part of the D.E.A.R program? What have they said about the impact of the D.E.A.R period in their children's reading and just their attitude towards reading?
Yeah. You know, one thing that at one stage I met this lady who said to me, "You know, Bongani, my daughter comes to me and says to me, 'Please buy me a book, mom. Please buy me a book,' you know." And that's a familiar response that you are getting amongst many parents that whose children are experiencing this. And it tells you that children have the desire to want to read. They want to read. They have this curiosity about books. They have this curiosity about stories. And it's just parents and ourselves and many others who are just not meeting their needs, you know. So I think one of the things that we are getting, and it's an important fact, is the notion that parents are beginning to be responsive. Parents are beginning to acknowledge that when children are being read to at school, when children have the opportunity to be told or to be read to aloud, they become responsive. And by being responsive, that is where these children are beginning to ask their parents to buy them books, you know, for their parents to assist them to read to them, you know. So it's an exciting space to be at, especially when you begin to experience that from parents, you know. It shows you that indeed the work that is currently taking place, D.E.A.R period has an impact. D.E.A.R period has so much potential to achieve, you know. We can get more and more children reading if we do more D.E.A.R period at schools, and if we push for all the schools to do it, all the primary schools throughout the country, from rural areas to townships, wherever the schools are, so that when we do that, we know that these children, indeed, once this process is taking place, if eventually with time, they will begin to respond. I think it's amazing when you have parents being the ones who are coming to you. You know, we used to have parent meetings in partnership with the schools, and whenever there'll be a parents meeting, you will have around 400, 500 parents coming to the meeting. During that meeting, you will have some of the parents standing up and say, hey, we see our children bringing these books. You know, I'm talking about the supplement Carrot and Keep book, and they will tell us that we must buy for them books, we must tell them stories and read to them. What is that? You know, because it's interesting. Our children are beginning to enjoy this. You know, and I think it goes back to that notion that many academics have spoken about, that the more you read to the child, the more you tell stories to the child, you are implanting a seed of literacy. And when they respond, they will respond with an interest to want to read more, you know. And this is something that just happens amongst children naturally without being forced by anyone. It's just something that children do on their own. So there is great. I mean, I just want to emphasize what Leslie had said. You know, she spoke about the impact, the supplement and the power of the supplement. You know, one of the things that we've been saying and we speak to parents about is the notion of using the supplement to its maximum effect. You know, you bring all the activities from the story corner to the activities in the front page, you know, writing to Nalebali, you know, which I think is important because you are making the supplement to be usable, you know, and I think you are strengthening the relationship between yourselves and Nalebali. Write letters to Nalebali, use the supplement. There's so many activities in the supplement that are there. And I also emphasize that we must also use shoe boxes. You know, we used to have shoe boxes in Bramfisher where we had children bring their shoe boxes. They will cover them nicely, and that is where we kept our supplements. That is where we kept our Carrot and Keep book. At some stage, we used your Kellogg's boxes, you know, and we use those specifically for the story corner. And those were the things that children will take when the schools close. Then when the schools open, they will bring them back to the schools, you know. And these are the activities that create fun. You know, children they like taking ownership of things. You know, when a child owns like that ice cream box, Leslie, it becomes exciting for them. It is something they hold dear, you know. It is something that they cherish for a longer period of time. So that strengthens their interest in literacy development. And I always emphasize for that as parents, as educators, as principals, as people working in the field, we need also to do more. We need to support such children who are interested in reading. You know, we need to find ways to make it a point that these children indeed have access to this reading material, and also to parents. Parents have data. Parents have all these things. They need to use their cell phones to download activities for children, stories, songs, and everything that is available on the Nalebali website.
Thank you so much, Bongani. I'd like to stick with you and just speak to you about, you mentioned repetition as a way to grow the interest of children in reading. And you also mentioned activities. And also, I think Leslie mentioned earlier on the importance of having these activities. So let me just maybe throw this question at the both of you. What are some of the strategies that we can implement to try and get children more interested in the D.E.A.R period? Because you'll find that some children are not confident enough to read during the period, or some of them might not want to participate. So what are some of the ways that you use to make sure that the children are always excited and looking forward to the D.E.A.R period? Yeah, you can go, Bongani.
Oh, Thank you very much. You know, one of the things that I've always said, and I still continue to say, it's these demonstrations that we do. Leslie, I'm sure you'll agree with me that as people who work in the field, who are passionate about children's literature, it's always exciting when we are the ones who are reading to children and playing games. You know, I believe that there are many strategies that one can use in the D.E.A.R period, but I'm truly inspired by Dr. Jean Olet, because what Jean Olet says, he says that we need a lot of creativity to help us encourage reading amongst the children. You know, and that for me is he has said everything. You know, he has said everything. I recently did a D.E.A.R period in one of the schools in Northwest. It's a rural school in Stilfontein, a very, very rural, in a farm. You know, it's a farm school in actual fact. So one of the things that I did, when I got there, I found that the children were sitting, looking in the front, and it was just quiet. You know, that when we were about to start with the teacher went to sit at the back. I immediately realized that, you know, this environment is not cozy for a story. It's going to be as if it's just a continuation of another teacher coming into class. I immediately asked children to stand up. We did a song. After doing that song, I then changed and went to sit at the back. And when I sat at the back, the children turned with me. And when they were looking at me from the back, it automatically changed the mood. You know, the scene automatically changed. And I said to them, sit wherever you are standing. Children sat on the tables, some sat on their chairs, but the whole environment became so informal. And I started sharing, I started telling the story. And when I told the story, you know, it became exciting. It was a different to what they are used to, you know, to what is formal, what is strict, it's uncozy, it's just a formal process of learning. But this time around, I broke that monotony and moved the children out of that whole system. And I always say that there are many approaches that we can use. We need to emphasize for a lot of credit. At some stages, I use puppets. You know, I like using puppets because with puppets, I can literally, you know, I will go to a 2-year-old in a class, two-year-old, I will go to a 7th or the 8-year-olds, you know, in a class, and I will bring my puppet, and with my puppet, I will play around with them, have the puppet being the one speaking to the children, you know, talk about books and not necessarily share a story, but, you know, the puppets will be asking children what is their favorite story. Would you like to share a story? It's not me, it's the puppet that's talking. And you will find the response from children being exciting because now they are talking to this exciting puppet, and the puppet is encouraging them to tell their own story. So I will encourage that. Become as creative as you can be, explore with as many activities as you can do, because we are trying to create fun, we are trying to make enjoyment as part of the reading process in the class. Thank you.
That is very eye-opening and very creative, Bongani. I'm just going to come to you, Leslie. There's a comment from Vicky Badenhorst on our Facebook platform. And she's saying teachers must be readers themselves. Otherwise, everything is just an academic, theoretical exercise in futility. So I'd like to ask you, what kind of attitude have you received from the teachers with regards to the D.E.A.R period? What has been their response to it? Are they positive around it? Are they seeing any positive results, or they still have questions around it?
8 years, the teachers are very positive. In fact, at the beginning of the year, I had a session with them and I explained to them what we're going to be doing. And I told them that some advice I received as a new teacher was to train, you must entertain. And I tell them this, I said, you are there, you are a performer. It's a performance. You're not just going to stand there boring, okay? I sing with the children. I dance with the children. I make up games for the children. You know, you as a teacher, if you want to get through to children, it's got to be fun. They've got to love what you are doing. You've got to be enthusiastic. So that's what I work with. I work with the teachers. I bring in guest speakers. So I've got Madoda. I think many of you know Madoda. He's a very good storyteller within our city. I've brought him in. I've brought in Aneli Ramabele. I've bring in another friend of mine, Leslie Foster, who's a writer. She's written stories for Nali Bali. I try to encourage the teachers. I say, we're bringing in these experts. They are demonstrating and they inspire the teachers. They inspire them in their own teaching. So I really am blessed that we've managed to ignite this reading culture within the school. And in fact, last year, a teacher of grade 2 got her grade 2s to write their own one-page stories and illustrate them. I have never in my life seen a grade 2 capable of doing that. And that comes from telling stories and from reading stories and sharing a passion for stories. So yeah, it works. It works. And for parents, 15 minutes a day is all you need to reach your children, and you can make a difference. Thank you.
Leslie,
Can I add on
just
this one?
talking about just on parents and their role. What role do you think parents can play, Bongani, in ensuring that the D.E.A.R period goes beyond the classroom? It's not just the thing that they do at school, but they actually take it home and they implement it in their daily lives. How can parents ensure that continues at home?
Thank you, Archie, on that one. What Leslie has said is amazing. Yeah, thank you very much for the work that you do, Les. It's amazing, you know. And just before I get into answer Archie's question, I've seen one of the teachers in Bramfisher who uses she uses the Nalibali supplement cut out and keep book to assess children's reading capabilities. She says to me, you know, yes, I appreciate that we have books that are prescribed, but with these stories, I find the interest to be greater. I find the interest to be more, which for me, I think it's fascinating, you know, and I think there's so much potential in the supplement. Yeah. Look, I think in answering you, Ati, one of the things that I've said, and I continue to say, is that what parents need to do now that we've activated children's interest in reading and writing, you know, through the D.E.A.R period, parents need to continue with that. And by continuing with that, what parents need to do, it is to create the same opportunities at home. So what parents need to do, it is to get the Nalibali supplement, is to visit the Nalibali website, or to go to their nearest libraries, get your child a library card, bring children's books at home, let the children see those books. You are creating an opportunity for your child because already the activation has taken place at school. You know, the D.E.A.R period has given the child the interest in wanting to read. So by now, what the role is, what the important thing is that when this child gets home, that opportunity must still be there so that the child can continue with what interests them that they saw at school. So when the child, just imagine the child gets home, there's a supplement carrot and keep book. The parent has done it nicely. It's there. It's just waiting for this child to come back home. And when they come back, they see this. They see this carrot and keep book, and the interest is there. The child will want to read. They will go through the supplement. They might even ask the parent to read to them, you know. But also with the library card, you can always go to the library, take out a book, you know, 2 or 3 books, and bring them back. By bringing them, you are bringing them home. You bring them home and you put them there. The interest becomes there for the child. Remember that what is important, it is for us as adults, as parents, to create opportunities for children. Therefore, if the school has already done that, it's much easier. It's much easier because by doing this, we are now enabling children to have the opportunity to explore with books without the formal schooling, but they are exploring it in a fun and exciting way at home, in a space that they like, in a space that is comfortable, in a space that has no pressure. You know, it's a free space. It is what people like Dr. Bloch used to call an alternative space, you know. So you are creating exactly that at home when you create these opportunities. Thank you.
I really like the idea of creating alternative spaces for children to read beyond the D.E.A.R period. So just our closing question, and this is for the both of you. What can be done to improve the D.E.A.R period from what it is right now? What can we do to make it better and make sure that the results, improve in the future. That's our closing question. Leslie, you can take it.
Right. What can we do to improve it? I think we've got to make sure that every teacher understands that there is a responsibility, that we have a responsibility, and that, statistics,
Yes.
research has shown that the better children read, the better they do academically. So if you're neglecting reading, we're going to have people who can never pass the subjects, the academic subjects, because everything involves reading. Even maths involves reading. So you start with reading, and then you've got a door open to success in the rest of their lives. So to me, it all starts with motivating the teachers, making sure that the school is bought into this. And that's where I think so many of us as mentors, I see myself as a literacy mentor. I go into the school. I try to motivate as much as possible. And I think also, as we know, the parents play a really, really important part. And I found such a wonderful quotation, which I'd just like to read to you. And it says, "Children fall in love with books because of the memories created when they snuggle up and read with someone they love." And that's not only on the lap of a parent or a grandmother or someone in the family who takes an interest, but that love that they feel in the classroom as well. That they can see that you care about them, you care about their reading. So I think that is my answer.
All right. Powerful. Leslie, thank you so much for those words. Bongani, would you like to wrap up and just let us know how you think we can improve the D.E.A.R period and make it more impactful?
Yeah, I think with the current work that is currently taking place throughout the provinces by Nalibali and many other stakeholders like Les and the department, I think what's critical is the notion that we need the support from provincial leaders and national leaders in terms of being the people who are putting more emphasis on schools. What we need to do is also to mobilize. There has to be a strong emphasis and mobilization, especially, when we come from reading aloud events where we are saying that, we are celebrating reading aloud, but reading aloud continues through the process of D.E.A.R period. It's not something that we do only during that day, but it continues through D.E.A.R period, So I think the emphasis needs to be there. We need to work closely with the teachers. We need to support the teachers. We need principals. We need SGPs to play along from time to time. We need to invite SGP members to visit the schools and be the ones who are also sharing stories, who are also reading to children. So this is much more of a cohesive approach. We need to put a lot of emphasis on partnerships and working together so that at least by doing that, children are going to see the importance of this activity. I think one another issue is the idea that the importance of D.E.A.R period, it also helps children to realize the importance of reading for fun, that they are not only supposed to read to answer questions, but they need to know that reading for fun is part of your daily life and helps you improve your vocabulary academically, helps you improve in terms of behavior. One of the parents in Bramfisher once said to me that, since my child has started reading, since he's been interested in reading, from time I see the change in behavior. And indeed, as you go along, as you get to understand, especially if you go through Marianne Wolf, Dr. Marianne Wolf, who speaks about the science of reading, she explains very well how reading helps to change children's behavior. And I'm inspired by Leslie's quotation. I have another quotation myself that says, "Children are made readers on the laps of their parents." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to note all the comments on our social media platforms. We will respond to some of the comments that you've made after this webinar. And I would like to thank you for taking your time to join us and commenting on the webinar. Leslie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your views and your expertise with us today. Bongani, as part of the Nalibali family, thank you so much for coming forward and sharing your knowledge with us today. Thanks to everyone who was part of this. And we have reached the end of our webinar. If you are looking to find the webinar, you can find it on any Nalibali's social media platforms. So that's X at Nalibali SA. There's the Facebook, it's at Nalibali SA, and then the Nalibali YouTube channel. Instagram, it's at Nalibali SA, and you can also find it on the Nalibali Trust on LinkedIn. Thank you for being part of this exciting webinar. Cheers. Bye.